All right, moving on to another kind of convoluted scenario. The Rams wide receivers. Obviously, it was already murky with Puka Nacua going down in week 1, expected to be out for 6 to 8 weeks at least. Cooper Kupp went down, had a high ankle in week 2. And so now we're left, Tyler, with kind of just the best of the rest here with the Rams. Obviously, Demarcus Robinson, we talked about him as a pickup, but there's other names out there. Tyler Johnson, we talked about him. Now we got Jordan Whittington as a part of this thing. And even on the back end now, we saw Tutu Atwell have a role with this team last week after the injury. So we have a lot of receiving options, not to mention that this team is also down on a lot of offensive linemen. Just lost another starting offensive lineman potentially going on IR. When it comes to these Ram receivers, obviously the pickup is Demarcus Robinson. I don't think you or I is going to deny that. Do you have? I have him as a wide receiver 3. Huh?
I'm denying that. I don't want him.
You don't want Demarcus Robinson?
Mm-mm.
Well, I got him as a wide receiver 3. There's the other options there: Tyler Johnson, Whittington, and Tutu Atwell. You don't have him as a wide receiver 3. Talk to me. How are you feeling about this receiving corps?
I like Tutu Atwell. And the reason being
Tutu Atwell?
He ran 10 routes last week, 10 routes, 4 targets. And you said it last week. Matthew Stafford needs to trust these guys. And last year we saw Tutu Atwell have moments of fantasy relevancy when Cooper Kupp was out of the lineup early on. And also Puka Nacua was a little bit banged up there too. We saw some moments out of him. And personally, I think that this is the opportunity. Like his routes are going to go way up with Cooper Kupp out of here. The problem too, like the wide receiver position is not the running back position. Like you have to be good at football in order to really earn targets at the wide receiver position. It doesn't just work out. Oh, this guy's hurt. Well, the next guy up, he's going to see all the work. It's just not how it works. So the problem is that like none of these guys are very good. Yes, they're bodies that are just out there and they're the only guys out there. But like, I would not be shocked either if like 1 week it is Demarcus Robinson, the next week it's Jordan Whittington, and the following week it's Tutu Atwell. Like, I personally would, sure, if you want to go with Demarcus Robinson, like, yes, but also I would go with Tutu Atwell because I think that Tutu Atwell is going to be the cheapest one, and really probably the most free one. And I think that he could be a guy who has a couple decent weeks that you need to play him, or that maybe you have to play him, and you play him and he can give you some of that relevancy. So for me personally, I would go with Tutu Atwell.
See, I think for sure it's Robinson, in my opinion. He's like the locked-in starter to me, and I feel like these next 3 guys are just kind of a carousel, right? When you talk about Tyler Johnson, he's the upside play weekly. You got Whittington, who's probably going to be more like a PPR type guy, low ceiling, just catch at the line of scrimmage, do some short yardage stuff. And then you also got Atwell, which, like you said, is the veteran on this team, but he was pushed down the depth chart early in the season. That's the problem I see with him is, has he earned the trust of his coaching staff, or was there something bigger that we didn't know about, right? Like, was there a reason why he wasn't seeing the field early on? And then obviously last week did play a more important role. So I do agree with the fact, like, Stafford has to go with his guys. This is who Stafford is, but he also locks in on players. Like, I don't think we're going to see a lesser version of Stafford that's not throwing for over 200 yards, which bodes well for Demarcus Robinson. That bodes well for Tutu Atwell, the guys that he already knows. So we saw week 1 the catch to Tyler Johnson. I think he'll be a little bit more risky. I think Whittington just doesn't have enough ceiling to throw in your lineups on a weekly basis. But for at least the next 4 weeks, we will get a wide receiver 3 out of this offense. Whether it's Atwell, whether it's any of these guys, Demarcus Robinson, one of these players is going to be a wide receiver 3. So if you're looking at options, pick them up. Whittington, Atwell, if you can get one for free, if you got to pay up a little bit more, one of these guys will be a wide receiver 3 on a weekly basis, because that's just who Matt Stafford is. He makes players good. He makes players great. And I think force-feeding guys like I said, Demarcus Robinson is the one I trust the most. He had a strong stretch last year, overtook Atwell last year as the wide receiver 3. But if Atwell is doing what he did last week, he's going to see a lot of volume as well. And especially if he's, let another injury happen to this receiving core. I'm not trying to wish that, but let another injury happen. I think these Rams receivers are must roster at this point. Let me ask you this though: does the offensive line concern you? Right? Like, we can talk about it and be like, there's a lot of optimism. Stafford is who he is. Sean McVay is an offensive genius. Does the offensive line bother you for rostering these guys or starting them?
100%. Like I just don't feel. I wouldn't feel confident yet. Like hopefully you have better options. I mean, you could have had some decent injuries though. That unfortunately you don't have better options.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's kind of like a snowball effect where these guys are, unfortunately, like obviously they're in the pros, so they're good players, but like they're just not very good real NFL wide receivers. Like these are kind of guys that belong more as a wide receiver 4 or 5 on a lot of depth charts than unfortunately the wide receiver 1 now. And then you also combine that with the offensive line. Like they're down a lot of pieces along this offensive line where if you're having trouble with these guys getting open, it's not like you're going to have time. Like you're going to have to make quick reads and get the ball out of your hands if you're Matthew Stafford. And then it also kind of affects like Kyron Williams, where you're not able to really move the ball as effectively as you once were, and you're not able to get the yards. And this team just came off of probably one of the best matchups that they're going to have this season against Arizona. Like Arizona's a bad defense, so it's just I don't know. It's there's a lot of things going on with the Rams. It's really unfortunate because injuries just suck. But man, oh
Yeah.
man, this offense has been annihilated with injuries, unfortunately, and
It's hard. And if
it
you're a
affects
fantasy
everything.
manager, if you're a fantasy manager with these Rams receivers, it's been tough. And they got the
Yeah,
Niners, they got the Bears, and the Packers before the bye. So
that's
gonna
rough.
see some, these receivers are gonna see some work, man. So